Okay, we may begin.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. We respectfully acknowledge that the County of Haliburton is located on Treaty 20 Mishi-Saugig territory and in the traditional territory of the Mishi-Saugig and Chippewa Nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations. We acknowledge a shared presence of Indigenous nations throughout the area and recognize its original inhabitants as the stewards of its lands and waters since time immemorial. My name is Liz Danielson, and I'll be your chairperson for tonight's hearing. I'd like to introduce you to the other members of the committee. Tammy McKelvey, Councillor at Large for Minden Hills. Pat Kennedy, Public Member for Dysart et al. Bob Snyder, Public Member representing Highlands East. And I'd like to welcome our new member, Bill Donald, who's from Algonquin Highlands. We're joined by our Director of Planning, Steve Stone, our official Land Division Secretary Treasurer and Planning technologist, Alana Lacey, and Planner Adam Kozlowski. The meeting is held through remote electronic participation in accordance with the Municipal Act 2001 as amended. And the purpose of the hearing is to give each applicant or their authorized agent the opportunity to discuss their application with the committee and to respond to written submissions which may have been received. It's also an opportunity for committee members to broaden their understanding of each application by asking questions. Members of the public who are participating virtually today may also make oral submissions to the committee, whether they're in support or opposition of the application. We hear the applications in the same order as they are received in our office. Our Secretary Treasurer will introduce each application and our planners will provide planning briefs. Then participants who have registered to address the committee will be admitted virtually to speak with the committee. And each participant will be given 5 minutes to speak to the committee or whatever time it takes to respond to the questions that the committee has. With that, we'll now proceed with the agenda for today. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda as presented? Moved by Tammy McKelvey, seconded by Pat Kennedy.
Be it resolved that the June 12th, 2023 Land Division Committee agenda be hereby approved.
All in favor? That's carried. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Hearing none. Could I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of the May 8th, 2023 meeting as printed and circulated? Moved by Member Snyder, seconded by Member Kennedy.
Be it resolved that the minutes of the Land Division Committee meeting held May 8th, 2023 be approved as printed and circulated.
All in favor? That's carried. So we'll move into the applications for consent. The first being by BKS Carpentry for a lot addition.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Application H05922 is for BKS Carpentry, and this is a rural residential lot on Buckslide Road in Algonquin Highlands. And just for committee refresher, this application was accompanied with 2 new lot creation applications that were previously approved. However, this lot addition had to go back to Algonquin Highlands for endorsement, and that has since occurred. And I'll share screen and walk committee very briefly through the site sketch. Okay, so these 2 lots here, H58 and H5722 were previously approved by committee. And the last part of this application is to add the retained lands, which is everything here in green, to the property at 2200 Buckslide Road. As a result of this lot addition, 2200 Buckslide Road will be increased in area from 5.2 acres to 17.6 acres. And the frontage will increase from 522 feet to 900 feet on Buckslide Road. Benefiting lands already have a dwelling and garage, so there will be no new development proposed on the enhanced parcel. Staff recommend approval of the application. It's been endorsed by Algonquin Highlands Council, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee may have. Thank you.
Are there any questions on the application?
Adam, the retained lands, do they include other lands other than what's shown on the sketch?
No, just what's in green, and the green parcel is retained from those previous 2 lots that were created.
If the ownership was the same, wouldn't title merge?
No, because it's no longer the original parcel, so we have to do it through a consent.
Okay.
Any other questions? Member McKelvey?
With some of the other documents that we received, there was an environmental impact study done, but I'm assuming it was more for the other 2 lots that were severed, because they're not showing as a condition here, so.
Yeah, that's correct. The other 2 lots were subject to that environmental study. In general, lot additions we don't require an environmental report because there's no new development lot being created.
And is there anyone here who wishes to speak to the application? Okay, then could I
Sorry,
have,
Mayor, they're just coming on now.
okay. So once again, is there anyone here who wishes to speak to the BKS carpentry application? Ms. Wicks?
Hi, I apologize. I was having a hard time getting linked in there. I'm just here to answer any questions that they might have from an environmental perspective, if there was anything about the lot addition. I don't really have anything I need to speak to.
Any questions? I don't believe there are, but just in case, are there any questions on the environmental report? And I see Mr. Hungerford is here. Did you wish to give us any supporting information or comments?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Again, my name is Peter Hungerford with Marie Poirier Planning from Huntsville. I have nothing really to add. I think Adam did a very good job at outlining the purpose of the application. It was carried over from February. As he mentioned, it went to Algonquin Highlands, who have consented with their conditions that are noted in Adam's report. And so we would thank the committee for its consideration and recommend that it be approved.
Hearing no, okay, and hearing no further questions, could I have a mover and a seconder then to grant provisional approval to the for the application? Moved by member Donald, seconded by member Snyder.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the report related to application for consent H-05922 BKS Carpentry, and that the Land Division Committee for the Haliburton County grant provisional approval of application for consent H-05922 BKS Carpentry, subject to the conditions of approval as listed in the staff report. I'm going to take votes now, please. Member McKelvey?
Yes.
Thank you. Member Snyder?
Yes.
Member Kennedy?
Yes.
Member Donald?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Chair Danielson?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
That's carried.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Our next application is by CW Coagama Limited for a lot addition. Sorry, there seems to be some echo here. I'm not sure why.
Okay, I think we're good to go. I heard the echo as well. Okay, application H00623 is for CW Coagama Limited, and this is for a lot addition. and I will share screen and walk committee briefly through the sketch. So the proposed lot addition is between two waterfront parcels on Kawagama Lake. And as a result, the parcel over here, which is 1059 Suggy Trail, will convey this triangle shaped parcel to the benefiting lands at 5019 Kawagama Lake Road. And the intent of this lot addition is so that the benefiting lands will qualify for the forestry tax incentive for woodlots, managed forest tax incentive. So as a result of the this application, 1059 will be reduced in size from 7.2 acres to 5.6 acres, and the benefiting lands will be increased in size from 8.9 acres to 10.5 acres. And there's no change in the lot frontage on the waterfront. And I would be happy to answer any questions committee may have. Staff recommend approval. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Kozlowski? Member Snyder.
Thank you. So I'm not an expert. The reason that's being given is so that the property qualifies for the managed forest tax incentive program. My understanding of the program is that there must be 4 hectares minimum of bush lot area, and that they deduct 1 acre or 0.4 hectares, that's 0.4 hectares for the residents. So if this lot is approved at 4.27 less 0.4 hectares, it will not qualify for the managed forest tax incentive program, in my understanding of the program. I'm wondering whether they want to proceed, if this is their understanding, or if they want to defer so that they can confirm that it qualifies for MTIF.
Thank you, Member Snyder. Melissa Markham, the agent for applicant, is here, and perhaps we can, if there's no other questions of committee members, we can allow Melissa to speak to that question.
Good evening, Chair and members of committee. My name is Melissa Markham from Melissa Markham Planning, 1025 Rebecca Lane, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H2J6. I'm not sure if I missed a question as I was being moved over. I did hear about the Managed Forest Tax Incentive Program, and I'd just like to give a brief overview of the application here tonight, if that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you. So good evening, Chair, committee members, and staff. I'm here tonight acting on behalf of the owners, CW Kawagama Limited, the owners of 1059 Suggy Trail. Craig Warren, the owner of the lands, is also in attendance tonight if there are additional questions by the committee. So as Adam had covered, the application is for a lot line adjustment, which is a lot addition. It proposes to sever a 0.7 hectare portion of 1059 Suggy Trail, added to the benefiting lands of 5019 Kawagama Lake Road. No change in the frontage is proposed, and no new lot or development is being proposed through the application. As I mentioned, I believe Adam gave a great overview of the application for the lot addition, so I'll keep my overview and comments brief. As I mentioned, the subject lands are accessed from Suggy Trail, which is an existing private right-of-way off of Kawagama Lake Road. 1059 Suggy Trail is currently developed with a residence garage and dock. There will be no zoning noncompliance that's created through the lot addition. All of the setbacks and lot area for the retained lands will still continue to comply. 1059 Suggy Trail is heavily treed, and both the retained and benefiting lands are adjacent to Kawagama Lake. This is a lake trout lake, but it's not at capacity. And as I mentioned, no new lot is being created through this application. The surrounding land uses are waterfront residential and rural in nature, containing existing dwellings and accessory structures. And in terms of the background, as it was mentioned by Adam, the purpose of the lot addition for the benefiting lots to qualify for the Managed Forest Tax Incentive Program. This is a voluntary program administered through the Ministry of Natural Resources and Forestry to encourage good forest management practices. And the lands are to meet 3 criteria to qualify. They must be a Canadian citizen or permanent resident, Canadian business, trust, or conservation authority. have at least 4 hectares or 9.88 acres of forest on a single property in Ontario under one municipal roll number, and have a minimum number of trees per hectare. So the owner of the subject lands did retain a consultant to conduct a report for the property to ensure that it would qualify for the managed forest tax incentive program. The lot addition is being added in order to qualify for the 9.88 acres or 4 hectares in land area. So my understanding of the program is that they require that 10-acre property. As I said, the benefiting lands meet all the requirements other than the size of the property, which is the purpose of the lot addition. The provincial policy statement, county official plan, Dysart et al. Official plan, and the zoning bylaw have all been reviewed in the preparation of this application. The subject lands are designated rural land in the County of Haliburton official plan, waterfront residential area and rural areas in the municipality of Dysart et al. Official plan. And the lands are zoned waterfront residential type 5L zone, and exception 2 in bylaw 2005-120. Once again, staff at the county and the municipality of Dysart et al. Have provided comments on the application, and there have been no concerns that have been raised regarding consistency or conformity with the application. No constraints are identified on the subject lands, and the application is compatible with the rural landscape. As mentioned, the purpose is to apply for the managed forest tax incentive program, and it is my understanding that the 10-acre parcel is what is required to qualify. The resultant lots conform with the minimum lot size of the county official plan and the frontage and area of the municipal official plan and zoning bylaw. The owner and I have both read the staff report and are aware of the conditions that have been proposed for the conditional approval of the application. We support staff's recommendation, and we're here in attendance this evening to answer any questions. Thank you.
Member Snyder, did that actually answer your question?
No, and my question really isn't a question, it's a caution. I am wondering whether the expert that they consulted with was a managed forest tax incentive plan approver.
Through you, Chair, yes, the person that did create the plan is a managed forest tax incentive program. They're qualified to conduct that research, that report.
Okay, no further questions.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair, to Melissa. Member Snyder had a question about the lot size requirement. I don't know if you heard it. You were.
I can repeat my question. My understanding of the tax incentive program is that it must be 4 hectares of bush lot, and that where there is a residence, they deduct a minimum of 1 acre or 0.4 hectares from the lot area. So at 0.27 less 0.4, the bush lot area will be less than 4 hectares and it will not qualify.
Through you, Chair, yes, my understanding is that it does need to be the 10 acres. The lot that it is being added to, the benefiting lands, they are vacant, and it is my understanding that they, are not to be developed at this time. So the 10 acres would qualify for the program.
Further question?
No.
Are there any other questions from Ms. Markham? And Mr. Warren, if you're here, is there any comments that you would like to add?
Mr. Warren is not here as an attendee tonight.
Okay. Okay, if there are no further questions, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the report and to grant provisional approval? Member McKelvey and Member Donald.
That the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the report related to application for consent H-00623 CW Kawagama Limited, and that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of the application for consent H-00623 CW Kawagama Limited, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. Member McKelvey.
Yes.
Member Snyder,
Yes.
Member Kennedy,
Yes.
Member Donald,
Yes.
Chair Danielson.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's carried.
Thank you for your time this evening.
The next application is by Clark for a new residential lot in Dysart et al.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Application H 00723 is for Clark, and this is for a new rural residential lot on West Settlement Road. And I'll share a screen briefly and show the sketch. The subject lands are on the south side of West Settlement Road, just off of Harburn Road, and Deer Lake is just to the west over here. So this property right now is undeveloped, and it's a large rural lot, and the applicant is proposing to basically split it right in half. So the new lot will have 36 acres of area, and it'll have 836 feet of frontage on West Settlement, and the retained lot will have 36 acres as well, and 720 feet, give or take, on West Settlement Road. A site evaluation report was submitted in support of the application, and the Riverstone Environmental prepared that report, and they have identified building envelopes, which were provided to committee under separate cover. And I believe Bev Wicks might be here to speak to that if there are any questions. Dysart Council endorsed the application. Staff recommend approval subject to the conditions that are listed, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Is it possible for you to bring up the sketch showing the building envelopes for us or not? Sorry, I know that might be a trick question right at this point in time.
Through you, Madam Chair, if you just give me a moment, I'll just pull it up in the file. Madam Chair, if you just bear with me for a few moments, I have to connect to the network to get into the application.
While Adam's bringing that up, is there anyone online who wants to address the application?
There is no one in attendance for this application tonight.
Okay.
Thank you.
Here's where the irony of accessible documentation comes into question. Adam probably wants to shoot me.
Madam Chair,
Yeah, go ahead.
the previous sketch he had up there, I think, showed the building locations when he first did it, but I could be wrong.
Through you, Madam Chair, I do have, I've got the sketch ready to go.
Okay, right on.
So the Riverstone report, if everyone can see this sketch, there are water courses and various wetland features identified on the property, and Riverstone has color coded them, and then they've applied various buffers around the environmental features. So on this lot over here, they've got a conceptual driveway location that comes in with a septic and a building envelope. And same with on this property over here. This driveway was actually already roughed in when I posted the property. So as committee can see, there's very large building envelopes on both properties that are well outside of these environmental features up more towards the north end of the lot, if that assists committee.
Thank you. That much appreciated, Adam. I know we could see on the sketch that we had that you could see the buildings. It just doesn't show this the building envelopes and in proximity to the creek in the wetland area. Any other questions on this application? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the report and to grant provisional approval on the application?
Sorry, I did have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering about the right of way. That's still protected. There doesn't have to be anything special about it on this.
Through you, Madam Chair, you're correct. When there's a right of way on an existing property, the land can be subdivided and the right of way stays in place. So any users of that right of way are not impacted by the land severance.
Thank you. Any other questions? Once again, then, could I have a mover and a seconder to receive the report and grant provisional approval? Member Kennedy, Member McKelvey.
That the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the report related to application for consent H-00723 Clark, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H-00723 Clark, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. Member McKelvey?
Yes.
Member Snyder?
Yes.
Member Kennedy?
Yes.
Member Donald?
Yes.
Chair Danielson?
Yes,
Thank you.
that's carried. Thank you. So the next application is by a Gallinger et al. For a shoreline lot split lot additions. And that's in Algonquin Highlands.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Application H-00823 is for Gallinger et al. And this is a lot split. So it's a vacant shoreline parcel that will be subdivided into two and then conveyed to two adjacent parcels, resulting in two enhanced shoreline lots and basically one vacant development lot that will cease to exist on the lake, on Wren Lake. So I'll show committee a sketch very briefly. So this is the current lot configuration. You've got the subject lands in the middle and the benefiting lots on each side. So we've got 1324 Wren Lake Road and 1306 Wren Lake Road. And what application will do is split the vacant parcel. And as a result, 1324 Wren Lake Road will be increased in size from 0.64 acres to 0.86 acres. And 1306 Wren Lake Road will be increased in size from 0.56 acres to 0.81 acres. The shoreline frontage of 1324 will be increased from 138 feet to 190 feet. And the shoreline frontage of 1306 will be increased from 102 feet to 142 feet. So staff have no objection. Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yep, staff have no objection to the application, subject to the conditions in the report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions of committee. And I believe Sue Harrison is here to speak to the application.
Are there any questions for Adam at this point? Member Kennedy.
Just the usual one, shoreline road allowance. Is it owned or is it not? And what the effect would have?
Through you, Madam Chair, I don't believe these shore roads are owned, but it doesn't impact the property. The dimensions that you've been given are minus the shore road allowance. And if they do come forward at some point to purchase those, the lands will be enhanced in size and frontage again.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure one had the purchase and one hadn't. So thank you. I didn't.
And Mrs. Harrison, is she online? There she is. Hello, anything you wish to add for comments?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair and the members of the committee. Adam has provided a pretty thorough overview of this application. It's a fairly straightforward one. It will result in one less lot on Wren Lake, which is always a good thing. The property owners are aware of the conditions and have no concerns with the recommendations made by staff. And I'm just here to answer any questions should there be any. And in just one comment though, the shore road allowance, the intent is that both of the property owners will buy the shore road allowance, but they wanted to, rather than dealing with 3 properties and buying 3 applications, they'll just get the lot addition done. And the next step will be to buy the shore road allowance on both properties.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Harrison? Hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the report and grant provisional approval? Members Snyder and Donald.
That the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the report related to application for consent H-00823 Gallinger et al. And that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H-00823 Gallinger et al. Subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. Member McKelvey,
Yes.
Member Snyder,
Yes.
Member Kennedy,
Yes.
Member Donald,
Yes.
Chair Danielson.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next application is up by Hamilton. Is that Hamilton and Stone for a right-of-way on Swift Lane in Algonquin Highlands?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Application H-00923 is for Hamilton Stone and not Steve Stone. And the application subject lands are at 1019 Swift Lane. And I'll share a sketch with committee and just explain the intent of the application. So I'm gonna, this sketch prepared by the surveyor is very detailed, but I'm gonna zero in on what the intent or the crux of this application is. Benefiting lands for the right-of-way are currently over here. They're a shoreline lot. Oops, sorry. Over here. And right now, the right-of-way known as Swift Lane is this part here. And as committee can see, this property actually does not, there's a gap here to get to Swift Lane for legal access to this property. So what this shape will do is grant right-of-way. It's not a lot addition. It's just going to be a right-of-way over this piece to get to Swift Lane, which is an existing right-of-way. So no new lots being created, and it's just really a stopgap measure here to basically complete the chain of access to Swift Lane. Staff recommend approval. Algonquin Highlands has endorsed the application, and I'd be happy to answer any questions committee may have. Thank you.
Questions? Member Snyder?
Thank you. Adam, is there already access across this piece of where the right of way is to go?
Through you, Madam Chair, no, that piece that we were just looking at is basically, we'll call it, it's the missing link between the property and Swift Lane. So that piece that I just showed you that was highlighted in orange, well, the right of way will be over that parcel so that they have access to Swift Lane and then out to the municipal road.
So sorry, how is the benefiting property accessed at this point?
They come in off of Swift Lane, and I believe that the road comes down, and it's a bit of a maze in there of driveways. But that benefiting parcel uses an existing driveway that does not have ROW over that part that I highlighted. So that's what this application would do, is just basically legalize an existing driveway.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine, thank you.
I'm wondering, Adam, why it would be done as a right of way as opposed to a lot addition?
Madam Chair, it can be done either way, and I think in this case, rather than convey land from the granting property, they're just doing it through right-of-way access. It's probably a little bit easier than doing a land conveyance. Both applications would achieve the same end. I think the right-of-way is the easier of the two.
Other questions from the committee? And if there are no questions, is there anyone present who wishes to speak to the application? Mr. Aubrey, you have comments?
No, I'm just here to answer any questions if there is any questions in regards to the application.
Any questions for Mr. Aubrey? Okay, hearing none, could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the application and to grant provisional approval? Member Kennedy, seconded by Member McKelvey.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton receive the report related to application for consent H-00923 Hamilton Stone, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H-00923 Hamilton Stone, subject to the conditions of approval as listed in the staff report. Member McKelvey?
Yes.
Member Snyder?
Yes, sorry.
Member Kennedy?
Yes.
Member Donald?
Yes.
And Chair Danielson?
Yes,
Thank you.
that's carried. Thank you. Okay, our final application for the evening is from Burdette for a lot addition on Crumby Lake Road in Algonquin Highlands.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Application H-01023 for Burdette is located at 1228 Crumby Lake Road, and it is for a lot addition. And I'll share screen briefly. And just to give, can everybody see the sketch? Okay, thank you. Just to give committee a brief walkthrough, just a little bit of background history here. The properties recently went through a road allowance purchase from Algonquin Highlands Township, which is part 4 and part 3. So there was an unopened road allowance that ran along here, and 1228 Crumby Lake Road was basically in a regular shape that had this this long kind of sliver piece that came out here. The benefiting lands at 1202, the rear lot line was here, and then they have their shoreline frontage on Kawagama Lake, but they were basically landlocked from road access. There is a driveway that comes in. However, part of the overall intent here was for both of these properties to purchase their respective concession road allowance parts. And then the final part of this, the outcome here is that 1228 would convey this piece here to 1202, so that this property now has road frontage on Crumby Lake Road and is no longer landlocked, essentially. So Algonquin Highlands Council has endorsed the application. Staff recommend approval. We do have conditions in there to ensure that all of those parts merge. And I'd be happy to answer any questions committee may have. Thank you.
Questions? And is there anyone present who wishes to speak to the application?
There is no one in attendance tonight for this application.
Okay. Well, if there are no questions, then could I have a mover and a seconder then to receive the report and grant provisional approval to the application? Member Snyder and McKelvey, thank you.
Be it resolved that the Land Division Committee of the County of Haliburton received the report related to application for consent H-01023 Bradette, and that the Land Division Committee for the County of Haliburton grant provisional approval of application for consent H-01023 Bradette, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. Member McKelvey,
Yes.
Member Snyder,
Yes.
Member Kennedy,
Yes.
Member Donald,
Yes.
Chair Danielson.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's carried. Thank you. Is there any other business this evening that the committee would like to discuss? Other than us all acknowledging that we have a new challenge in documentation and trying to make it accessible for all. So hopefully we'll all, it's my hope that we can actually find an easier way to go about it, but I'm not sure that that's going to be possible. Our next meeting date?
Our
I
next,
Sorry, go ahead, Elena. Sorry.
our next meeting date is June, oh, sorry, my apologies.
July?
July 10th. Thank you.
Okay, everyone available for that date?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, if there's no further business, could I have a motion to adjourn? Mover and a seconder. Member Kennedy, Member McKelvey.
Be it resolved that the June 12th, 2023 Land Division Committee meeting be hereby adjourned.
All in favor?
7:42.
That's carried. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Good
Thanks,
night, all.
everyone. Night.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thanks, you too.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.
Thanks, Travis.
Thanks for having me, Liz.